Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite podcast show. Mark and Ken.
What's the story?
Episode 164 of the Shite podcast show.
Yeah, it's a lot of listening for people to do.
Yeah, like if people want to, we're going into level 5 lockdown in Ireland. For anyone outside Ireland, that means we can't basically leave our homes. And not going to lift till, like, I think December 1st.
Yeah.
So people will have a lot of spare time in their hands.
Yes, it's a lot of time to be listening to podcasts.
If you ever wanted to binge a podcast, I know
We've got one to suggest.
But yeah, we got one to suggest. We also got little videos on YouTube that people can watch.
Well, Joe Rogan's not on this week, so
yeah, exactly. So like, I wonder if everyone else's podcast listenings will shoot up because of all those people who want to get their podcast fix without listening to Joe.
Yeah, listen to Shite podcast instead.
Yeah, if we have a pie chart of podcasts, how many interlopes there are between Joe Rogan and the Shite podcast show, but there must be some.
There's definitely some.
Yeah,
we occasionally talk about MMA. He occasionally talks about MMA.
Yeah, exactly. We have a similar broad range of discussions.
We talk a lot of shite. He talks a lot of shite.
Yeah, we just need to like start introducing DMT into our shows.
Yeah, and
then
interesting guests.
Yeah, well, we won't have interesting guests, but we'll just start talking about DMT. And just like start talking about like, people should take vitamin D and hunting and being healthy.
Hunting. Yeah, hunting.
Yeah, Ken, people should be like really healthy. I think like people need to promote being healthy a bit more. What do you think?
You can do that.
I'm going to McDonald's.
You ain't going to McDonald's before it closes.
Yeah, exactly. Are they doing drive-thru for McDonald's, or is that a no-no?
I've no idea.
I imagine you should be allowed to stay open.
See, I don't like drive-thru though.
Talking about this, the last lockdown, yeah, like you're kind of. I think McDonald's was open for drive-thru only, and you're like, I hate drive-thrus, but you also hate like human contact. So it's a strange one with you that you like McDonald's. There's a way of having McDonald's without human contact or less of it, and you're like, no.
Yeah, I don't like the drive-thru.
Some McDonald's are doing a delivery, so there is that.
Yeah, I don't live close enough to one.
Oh, do you know?
No.
No. Unless you pay someone to drive there. So you know. You're like, okay, I'll give you like €15.
I remember one time with Domino's.
Yeah.
You know with Domino's, like, they close for like collection at like midnight.
Yeah.
It's like one time we were out on the piss and decided we needed Domino's, and we were getting like a taxi or something back home, and it was like, oh fuck, it's delivery only. So we asked them would they deliver to Domino's, and they were like, what? We're like, can you deliver our Domino's to Domino's?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, okay.
So they delivered it to, they just like open the door and give it to you outside the door.
It's actually even better than that. So like the delivery drivers all leave from the back.
Yeah.
So the delivery driver actually drove from the back of the building to the front of the building, gave us our pizza, and then drove back.
And did you get charged like a delivery charge?
You charge like whatever the delivery charge is,
€2.50, €3. So,
yeah.
Oh my god. Like,
he actually drove. Like, he didn't even walk around the building. Like, he drove.
Yeah, I can't believe they just didn't hand it outside the door. I guess if they don't deliver it, then they can't charge the delivery charge. So there might be method in their madness here. But anyway, we got a full line show without anything to do with food. Well, there is a bit of ice cream talk. Yeah, we'll be talking about, Ken, in the show, how witches make money.
Nice.
We'll also be discussing, like I said, the fermented ice cream. It's meat flavoured. Now, when I was researching this story, I was on the fence. I was like, I don't know if Ken will either love this idea of meat flavoured ice cream or he'll think it's an abomination. And you're saying it's abomination. You're leaning towards abomination.
Yeah, leaning towards abomination for this one.
Yeah, then we have, I think we've heard Elon Musk talking about this. There are a few other people that like suggested it. So it was only about a matter of time before the Shite Talk podcast show discusses it. We're going to be talking about if we are living in a simulation.
Yeah.
We have idiots news coming up as well. We have, I think, 3 idiots stories for idiots of the week or idiots news.
This is like the only weekly segment that has lasted more than 1 week.
We've got good mileage out of our idiots of the week. Ken's sex story, it was a no flyer, and did we really have any other segments? We try to do the topic thing from time to time.
Yeah, from time to time, yeah.
Yeah, our topic this week, Ken, as we are talking about, is do we believe in ghosts or spirits? And we're going to be talking about like Ouija boards, haunted houses, tarot cards, and psychics. So all spectrums of ghosts.
Woo-hoo.
I ain't afraid no ghost. So we'll be discussing whether if we believe or not in ghosts, or if we would stay in a haunted house.
I
have just recently started watching The Haunting, so that's just why this was on my mind.
So you've been scaring the shite out of yourself.
Well, it's not that scary, but it's just like freaky things happening in the background. That's the best way to describe The Haunting. It's just like they're having a conversation and there's a doll crawling across the ground. You're like, holy shit, what's that? So it's like,
what's up with that?
What's up with that? Like, there's a girl singing, like, you know those wind-up jewelry boxes make kind of bit of music?
Yeah.
There's a girl singing it. She's hiding in the attic. They're playing hide and seek. And then doll from behind her starts singing along with her. And then she turns to the doll and tells the doll to shush. The doll just drops back down.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the girl is obviously should be burned at the stake.
Burn witch,
talking to ghosts. And today we'll be starting off with, how do modern witches make money, Ken?
I don't know.
It's something
how do modern witches make money?
Something I never ever thought of. Now they haven't the greatest of all history, which is they used to be burned at the stake, as we aforementioned, and they used to be persecuted, and this went on for I wouldn't say millions of years. That's a little bit long, but it went on for decades anyway. I think it was something like in the range of 50,000 people were executed for possibly being a witch in my research. I don't know if that's an exact number. People will have to do their own research on this, I'm afraid. But I think it's something in the range of about 50,000 people were executed for being a witch.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot of people. I wonder how many people were actually practicing witchcraft, or people just didn't like them and were like, that your one's a witch. Kill her.
It'd be great if you could still do that.
Murder people because you thought they were a witch.
You know, they just need absolutely no evidence whatsoever. Just go, witch.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
can you prove you're not a witch? No. Okay, witch.
Then you're a witch. This is one of the things that they throw you into a river.
Yeah, and if you drown, you're not a witch.
If you drown, you're not a witch, and if you survive, you are.
Yeah.
And then we have to deal with a very, very annoyed witch. So if you search the hashtag witches of Instagram, right, you get 5.4 million posts.
Jesus.
Yeah, and as well as that, if you Google search it, you also get 35 million results for witches. So there's obviously a boom, or at least an online community of witches. So
yeah,
anytime there's a community, there's probably a way of monetizing said community. So Vice did a piece where they interviewed a modern witch. I think this was done in the Netherlands. So her name's a bit weird. It's Londa Jandik. She's a professional witch, and she is 38 years old. She calls herself a computer witch, Ken.
A computer witch?
Yeah, so she's an online witch, because behind the computer a lot of the time writing up blogs, as well as doing online workshops and selling merchandise as an online witch. It's very tech focused being a witch these days.
How does that work?
I think, in terms of, she obviously has, she has starter kits for how to become a witch. So if you wanted to become a witch, obviously you need somewhere to start. She sends you a starting kit, and you can also do a course that she provides. She starts each day by offering her meals to her ancestors. She leaves basically a small amount of her food beside this altar. So she starts off in the morning with big cornflakes. She leaves there, maybe a bit of milk. Later on, she offers them a bit of bread and whatever she's having. She also offers them coffee in the morning as well. And whatever she's having, she'll just take a portion of whatever her food is and place it on the altar. And this is for her ancestors, which she claims that her ancestors are very important to witches. So they want to make them offerings.
What happens to food when it starts to go moldy?
She doesn't go into that. Imagine she then later just takes it away.
Or do her ancestors come and eat it?
Maybe her ancestors eat it, Ken.
Maybe.
There are bottles beside her altar, so maybe she just shoves them into the bottles and then pours some coloured liquid over it.
She's obviously cracked.
Oh, 100% cracked. We're talking about a witch here, Ken. But in fairness, there's merit in her madness because her star kits alone fetch her over about €3,000 a month. She gets a lot of her money from witches that are basically starting out, but she's also ordained as a minister and she performs marriage ceremonies for witches as well.
Oh, of course she does.
You probably wonder what exactly does she teach during her workshops?
Yeah, what can she teach people?
When I imagine witches, I imagine them casting spells on people, like making warts grow on their face. Basically what we call now sexual transmitted diseases. But imagine them maybe wishing bad luck on them or do nasty things and worshipping the devil. That's what you think. But apparently witches are so much sounder these days. So she basically teaches people how to do ritual candle ceremonies, how to clear negative energy from rooms, how to use tarot cards, and help answer life's biggest questions. She calls it all pretty practical, by the way. It costs about €600 to do this course, and you get 10 workshops every evening, and it's also online, which obviously would make sense now. And it costs about €23 a month if you do an online course.
€23 a month?
Yeah, and comes with a 20-page information which she's written herself.
Oh, of course she has.
Yeah, and that's basically how you become a witch. You just basically monetize workshops. She doesn't actually give it she tells it how she gives it. She makes money. Now, in terms of exorcisms, she doesn't perform them. She says that's a specialized field. So she doesn't actually go into exorcism and just a whole lot of other people for there. I imagine that psychics and witches' paths overlap. Because a lot of things like tarot cards, psychics would do as well. If they can talk to the dead, that's also something that psychics claim that they can do.
Yeah.
I don't know. She doesn't seem to dress in a pointy hat either.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, and she said apparently the whole broomstick thing it came up with some artist, and that witches don't actually fly in broomsticks or have black cats.
So how do they fly?
Aer Lingus, maybe? I don't know. What was a witchly named aircraft company?
I don't know.
Boeing, I guess. They make planes, so plane company.
EasyJet.
EasyJet. Yeah.
Ryanair.
I don't know. Virgin Atlantic. I don't know. I think if that was too scary of a name or too witchy of a name, maybe people wouldn't go on the plane.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, but that's how you become a witch. How you create meat-flavoured ice creams, or why would you, is also another mystery. And it's also another topic that we're going to be talking on the show today, Ken.
Yeah, this one now is going to get strong reaction.
Yeah, I kind of feel... When I first heard it, I thought it was disgusting. And anytime someone asked me what I was talking about today, and I told them about this, they're like, that is rank. I thought the only person in the world that will actually think this is a good idea is Ken. And I told you, and what was your reaction?
Yeah, meat in ice cream? Maybe. Meat flavoured ice cream? No.
I thought you were like, no, it's too savoury for ice cream. It's not going to be nice. It's like they're nice separate, but they should never be combined. What Ken thinks is missing out of this meat flavoured ice cream is actual meat, everybody.
Yeah. Like
Ken draws a line that they haven't went to the hassle of cooking meat and then blending it into an ice cream. Because I take you
not
don't
necessarily blending, like even
just
chunks,
sprinkled.
like chunks of meat. You know, like cookie dough ice cream.
I speak
Just
for everybody else who thinks that it would make it far worse.
I don't like anything that says, oh, like there is exceptions, but I generally don't like things that say, oh, it's whatever flavored.
What about like strawberry flavored ice cream?
No, I don't like strawberry ice cream.
What about like salted caramel flavored ice cream?
Salted caramel flavored ice cream generally has salted caramel in it.
That's a good point, but it's still delicious.
Yeah, it's great.
It was done by a meat and dairy company in Minsk, and they presented it to the Berlingo 2020 exhibition. Ken, that was last month. I can't believe we forgot about it.
Jesus.
We wait all year for the Berlingo to come around, and
yeah,
we missed it. So unfortunately, we missed it, and we probably missed out on the chance to taste this scientific wonder of this meat flavored ice cream. They didn't actually say that they gave out any tasters to anybody. And one of the questions I imagine what our listeners would have, and maybe you as well, is what does the ice cream look like? Because when you think of like meat flavored ice cream, you think maybe an off pink color, as if they got raw mince and just put it into a blender and then place or brown if they cooked it. And in fairness, it looks quite normal. Now, people in the article didn't agree with me. They thought it looked as appetizing as it sounds. It's quite thick enough ice cream. It kind of, if you imagine what a 99 cone or maybe an ice cream sundae ice cream, it's kind of like that kind of consistency, a softish ice cream, but it's just slightly thicker than that. So it's it's a kind of off-white color. It looks just like regular ice cream. There's no, looking at it, you wouldn't know that it is meat flavored at all or it is flavored at all. It just looks quite normal.
I really like ice cream.
Yeah.
And I really like meat. And I probably have put the two of them together at some stage. But put real meat in it. Don't start flavoring shit.
Ken, that's where I think you and everybody else drift off. You take something that's weird and somehow make it weirder. You're like, let's sprinkle a bit of like bacon on top of this like strawberry daiquiri, or that's a cocktail, or this strawberry ice cream, or this vanilla fudge. You're like, people would be like, no, Ken, that
would be nice. Like I like dipping my McDonald's chips into ice cream.
A lot of people do, and apparently it's the shit. But
ice cream with meat could work. It's the flavouring that I don't like the idea of.
Yeah, it might be a bit much for people. I can see where you're getting behind. Now, would you have a particular style of meat that you would prefer to have as a flavouring? Would you prefer chicken over, let's say, rasher or bacon? Would you prefer like mince, or maybe do you like Cajun chicken? What?
Like realistically, it would have to be either bacon or it would be barbecue beef.
If you were going to create meat flavoured ice cream, you'd have a flavour of meat in mind. However, this wasn't on the researchers' priority list because when asked what flavoured meat does it taste like, they weren't too sure. So they don't know of what type of meat flavoured ice cream it actually tastes like. If it tastes like beef or bacon or mince or chicken, they do not know what flavoured ice cream it is. And
how did they come up with it then?
I don't even know what's really in it, to be honest with you. They were quite loosey-goosey with the whole, like, what does it actually taste like? What, like, even the guy who created it, so wasn't too sure. Now, the one person that did actually try it said that it needs a little bit more work. He wasn't thrilled by the whole experience, and he didn't think it tastes the best. But he says he does 100% believe that it should actually be a thing.
This brings you back to like flavouring things that aren't really things, like, you know, fucking chicken flavoured tofu and stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. This would probably come in your pet peeves of these. He was the chief specialist technology in the dairy production place. He said the flavour could be improved or redefined, although he defended the product saying it has a right to exist.
It has a right to... It doesn't have a right. Yes.
No, if people won't eat it, it will not be a thing.
Yeah.
So you're probably wondering what could be possibly, if it tastes rotten, if people think it sounds rotten, and it does not actually have meat in it, what benefits of having this meat flavored ice cream other than like maybe keto people could eat it? Then, like I said, I don't know if it possibly could have meat in it. This is where I don't know if it is just flavoring or if it is actually they have some form of like meat fats in it, because it does actually have natural values such as a high source of protein, also has a good source of fats in it, and it's not actually created using sugar, meaning that people who are diabetic or who need or who's watching their sugar intake would be able to enjoy dessert.
So there's already stuff like that.
Yeah, like I know you can probably get sugar-free ice cream that tastes pretty good. You use, instead of using sugar, you use alcohol sugars, or you use the artificial flavorings, which isn't sugar instead of it. So it probably is sweet enough. I'm willing to concede that I've never tried rashers and like vanilla ice cream, so I don't know if it would be mank.
Well, you know what? I'm going to do a fucking experiment, and I'm going to have some fucking rashers and ice cream, and I'll let you know what it's like.
Post it on the Shite Talks Facebook page. You get your dessert, you video you eating it, and you can give us a description on the Facebook page, and people can go to @Shite Talk Show on Facebook and find the Shite Talk Podcast Show of Ken trial running the bacon and ice cream.
That's what I'm going to fucking do.
You do that.
I'm going to have to think about what ice cream will go with it, though.
With rash? Well, yeah. You imagine vanilla.
I'm going to try salted caramel.
Salted caramel goes with everything, though.
Yeah, but it'd be really good because you'll have the salt and the salted caramel, the salty rashers.
Yeah, will complement each other. Oh, this could be the new Shite Talk thing. Shite Talk tries foods. But I wonder if people in a simulation ever thought of people making simulated meat flavored ice creams.
Oh ho ho!
And our next topic, Ken, is: are we living in a simulation? Now, somebody has done the legwork on this for us, and has actually brought out statistics, or percentages, whether there is a chance of us living in a simulation.
Have you ever thought like that? Oh, we could be like, none of this could be real, or...
Yeah, but I do sometimes, not quite deeply enough as, let's say, someone like Elon Musk, that he has to bring out rules that if he's in a hot tub with girls, he can't bring it up. I don't like. I'd fall that very much on. It's very probably unlikely.
So it's being tested. So
So you're saying this off air? It's been tested. How do you test whether or not we're in a simulation?
Well,
or percentage?
I don't know. Some guy from Nick Bostrom, he's a philosopher, and he wrote a paper in 2003 called "Are We Living in a Computer Simulation?", in which he posed the idea of a civilization possessing incredible computer power that uses a fraction of that power to simulate a new reality full of fully conscious beings. And he posed the question, using the analogy of the Sims, that we are the Sims and there's somebody controlling kind of what happens to us. You've got a certain element of free will and stuff, but somebody controls all the natural disasters when they happen and stuff like that. And he argued that one of three things has to be true. So either the humans always go extinct before we reach the level where we can create our own simulation. Humans make it to this stage where we understand that we are in a simulation and we learn how to make a simulation, but we're unlikely to be interested in actually simulating our own past, or that we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. And scientists from Columbia University and from, where's the other one? Some Californian university actually they were obviously this is complete and utter bullshit. So they sat down, they tried to prove what they called default simulation. They tried to prove his theory was shite. So they took into account factors like whether that each simulation would have to create your own simulation and stuff. And then eventually they came to the conclusion that the probability that we're living in a simulation, the odds of us not living in a simulation and this actually being reality are 50.222222%, and the odds of it being a simulation are 49.888888%.
And that is based on the computer technology needed to create a realistic simulation. You could have conscious beings who feel that they have free will, but don't know that they're in a simulation, or...
Yeah, it's basically based on the possibility of there being like another, and like either humans or another race capable of creating a game like The Sims, where the characters actually have free will, actually make conscious decisions, just don't realize that they are in a simulation.
Once again, like, it is fun to think about, and when you start pulling on that string, is like, if you look at technology in something like video games, if you look at back in the 60s, what it was, and 60 years later, what video games have become, in another like 60 years, you could imagine a very, very realistic experience in video games.
Yeah, like, I just think it's interesting, like, the kind of floating around the idea that it could be like a Matrix kind of world if neared, say in, I don't know, 100 years, like the technology for video games has adapted that the characters are actually conscious that they're characters.
Yeah.
Split of actually being able to create a simulation like the Matrix changes from 50-50 to 60-40.
Imagine, in order to operate that, I know like you could have a civilization that is actually run normally, and this simulation is being processed in a computer in West Texas or in Florida or in England or in whatever part, and this is just an experiment done by like IT graduates that have been going on for the last X amount of years, where they create a simulation where they're able to look in every now and again, and they wonder, like, I wonder how they deal with pandemics, or I wonder what they do if like a dictator or stuff like that. So they like writing code for like people to become like a certain way that influence society.
Yeah, like it's something that I've kind of thought about a bit. Like, I haven't thought about it in years, but like as a teenager, I used to think about this.
Who be bothered what, like, people? Okay, every now and again there'd be like an interesting thing happens on Earth, but realistically, it'd be like in the over a long scheme of things, like, it'd be very boring.
How many people play The Sims? Like, a lot.
I think that, like, I don't know if it's as popular now as it was, let's say, back in like 2000 to like 2010. I think it was Sims glory years, maybe 1999 as well. It was huge at the time, but like, I don't know anybody that plays The Sims now.
Like, it's still going. Like, I still occasionally play it.
Yeah, I don't think it's as popular. So, and I think, like, even with the simulation, eventually somebody's going to get bored of it and like, I'm done with this. I just wander off, and then we're just left to our own devices. And then they come back and go, let's have this happen. And then they walk off again, like, oh, this is interesting again. Livened it up. How do they tackle global warming?
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe somebody got bored and was just like, oh, let's just leave them to their own devices. And now we're fucked.
They're like, oh, they're fucking up.
Yeah, what are they doing now? Oh, look, they just elected a reality TV guy to be president.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like, would they even care in the grand scheme of things about the U.S. election? They'd be like, oh, okay, there's a guy over there who seems.
They probably would, because you know the way, like in The Sims, it's fun sometimes to like do mad things.
Yeah, I think they would have got great kick out of Hitler.
Whoa.
Well, you know, in terms of look at him doing horrific things. Not like, not I'm not trying to promote, like, Hitler was a dickhead. Like,
Jesus.
But like, in fairness, if you think like they're like getting amusement out of Trump, like, they would have got some amusement out of Hitler or Stalin.
I don't know.
I don't know. You don't know where to go with that.
I don't know where to go with that.
But like the Holocaust. But then look at like what's happening over in South Korea, like, or North Korea, like or even China, where they have concentration camps.
Yeah.
And no one's even batting an eyelid at those places. Like, so imagine that, like, okay, they're like, okay, people have lost interest of the horrificness of concentration camps. What else can we give them? What also sparks interest? Oh, the internet. Social media is a really good thing now. To really get behind this thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
we are. Maybe they're listening to this podcast, going, "I can't believe podcast taking off."
Like, it would explain certain mad things that happen.
Okay, what would it explain?
Pyramids.
Well, how would it explain pyramids?
How did the pyramids get there? How did they do that?
I think to do with something with water. Imagine that they got up to water, and the stone working it into the stone and lift it up, and they did it on rivers that they're able to get the stones up to the river. I think they do know now. If you YouTube after the show, how pyramids were, you're going into like so many conspiracy rabbit holes, but like how pyramids were actually born, how they think they are actually created. I think they have a fair idea on how they think pyramids actually came to be.
Stonehenge.
Once again, I think they they know how it was made, but the accuracy of it under stars and stuff like that is still like a mystery.
Newgrange.
Okay, like I think how are people smart like hundreds of years, thousands of years ago isn't enough to prove that we're in a simulation. Just that, like,
no, it's not enough to, but like just like
none of those things would like it's good enough proof. Go, oh, people did amazing things 1,000 years ago. Like technology gets lost. All it takes is a generation, and something that like became common knowledge wears away. Like people reading maps, like everybody who was able to drive back in the 80s, 90s would be able to read a map. If you gave it like a person nowadays a map, it says read this, get yourself to West Clare, and you're like, what? How?
Yeah, like, I can read a map.
I could probably read a map as well, but like I'm pretty sure if I gave it to my cousin who's learning how to drive, or I give someone else how to drive, then go, here, just use this to get yourself around. Be like, what? How am I going to use this?
Like maps are fairly easy.
Yeah, but I think it's technology that like a lot of people wouldn't be able to read. You're doing it because you're 35 now. Like
32.
32. You're 32 years old, so you grew up like being able to read maps. You learned it in school. I know this probably still taught maps, but like I guarantee there'll be a lot of the population that wouldn't be able to read a map. And so that's technology that's went away. So imagine stuff like how to sew and stuff like small little skills go away because people just stop like sewing. People stop knitting. People stop reading maps. Like over time, like 40 years time, people are like, how did people fucking be able to travel down the West Clare? Like how did people navigate themselves around? And it was just a mixture of maps and asking people.
The technology goes away, though, or the knowledge goes away because it's been replaced with something.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think
you can trace things back. Then, like you can trace,
like the pyramids were great, but they're no Roman architect. Like all they are giant like triangles, pyramids.
Yeah, but like that's like just one thing that they don't know how the fuck they did it.
Yeah, exactly, because it's technology that's lost through generations. It isn't.
Yeah, but usually you can like trace the technology back.
Not when it goes a certain like 100 years after it happened, though. Like people who obviously created pyramids, better technology, better tools came available. At the point where they didn't have to use that way, there were a lot easier ways of lifting a larger object or creating more impressive structures that the pyramids weren't needed anymore. That you could build stuff that are far more elaborate than pyramids.
I don't
know. Like, and also it's also civilizations back then got wiped out through war and all that. So, although like when they were probably invaded and like they murder everybody in sight. Like I say, a lot of the people that were part of the building of the pyramids probably got wiped away with that. So I wouldn't say that's a good enough reason to say, oh, that's how we know we're in a simulation.
No, it's just I don't know, whatever.
I think it would be like we're the only intelligent being. Maybe like would be point to it that we're so much different than anything else. Intelligent design like birds or giraffes would be another of it. There's certain birds that its tongue wraps around its brain. There's like in terms of aerodynamics on birds and how it's created like that, and other evolutionary traits in animals would be ways where I'd look to say like there's things that like clearly look like there was a creator that created these things. There's like if you look around animals or around nature, you have intelligent design all around us, and that's where I'd point to being maybe a possibility that there might be a creator of some sort. There's top into how this earth looks a certain way, or how birds or tigers or stuff like that. Someone has on the outside looking in, it looks like somebody has created like humans to be smart. They have opposable thumbs, so they can pick up stuff, so they can make tools, or how their skin darkens to protect them from sun, or how some animals have like layered skin to make their skin harder and others don't, like stuff like that. I'd say it's more evidence of possibly a simulation rather than like what was the fuck with those pyramids.
Yeah, but like I don't know.
We don't know. We're probably not intelligent enough to be talking about this realistically.
It never stops us.
No, it never really does stop us, and it never stops us creating a segment called Idiot's News. And this is our next segment, Ken. It's a part of the show where we've created for idiots. It's created by idiots, clearly. And it's basically people doing dumb things. We call it Idiot's News. And we got a few stories for our listeners today.
Yeah.
I think we'll start off with the first story. And this seems to be more of a thing around the US than it does necessarily in Ireland. I don't know what it's like in like England or other places that have large populations, but as the population goes, you get more and more homeless people living on the streets. Rents go up, prices of housing comes harder to buy, people get kicked out of their house. It's tragic. Well, that's what it's like in Ireland. Ireland, like, I think it's due to, like, I'm going to go on a rant, like, due to the plague, or Ireland being, like, having the worst slums in Europe. Like, only
plague?
Yeah. Or, well, Ireland has a version of the plague, or the famine. And Ireland having the worst slums in Europe only like 100 years ago, or probably maybe 120 years ago at this stage. Like it's very much like people living in poverty is very, very recent to us, and abject poverty is very recent. Like only maybe two or three generations removed from most people came from abject poverty in Ireland. So I think the homelessness thing in Ireland is huge. It's a huge political movement to like in terms of affordable housing for people and to make people that they aren't living on streets. In the US, there's laws against being homeless, and this is quite evident as a statue of a homeless Jesus was erected outside a church, and within 20 minutes, people were ringing the police complaining that there's a homeless man sleeping on a bench.
Like that's a very American story.
Very American story. And it was outside the Barnabas Chapel in Bayville, Ohio. And basically, they actually rented this statue. Every now and then goes around to different places. So they basically hired the statue out, and they placed it outside the church as a kind of symbol about if Jesus was around today. Like, look, he'd be sympathizing a lot with homeless people and trying to make people show that like behind every homeless person is a human being, like is American, is a person who is just like you, who just fell in hard times, and probably this could be you quite easily. But obviously Americans didn't get the message and just called the police.
As they do.
Yeah, so like I say, obviously they did travel around different states. Because in some other part of the US, emergency service crews were called to the homeless Jesus statue, after residents were concerned of a homeless man sleeping out in the winter, or he looked like he needed medical attention. And this happened in several other places where the statue is, especially if they have bad winters and it's coming into the winters. If they see a homeless person, they'd ring like the emergency services and say there's a homeless man who looks like he needs medical attention. So now it's not only coming from a bad place, but I know in California they have a dreadful attitude when it comes to like homeless people. Well, yeah, like there's actually large parts of it that's taken up by homeless people. There's homeless people have obviously gathered and have like huge communities, and police like are cranking down, like either like clearing out, like getting like bulldozers and clearing out all the tents from there, destroying all their like any bit of shelter that they have, and like not letting them stay there, and like have like arrest people or at least move them on if they're found sleeping on like streets.
Like where do they expect them to go?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're your problem. They're your citizens. You have to deal with them.
I don't know.
I don't understand it. Like how do you not understand? Like this is a product of your environment, of your rents, of your houses prices, of your standard of living without any social care. How do you expect people to live in your society and not go homeless if there's no support there to catch people when they fall on hard times?
Mental.
It's a bit mental. What is also mental is a kid that was named after a Wi-Fi provider in some country, in Ken's words, that doesn't speak English. So if you take all the countries that speak English and just remove them, it's one of yous.
Yeah, no. Well, the reason I say that is because you asked where it's from, and I just looking at the ad here, and the ad is in some language that I don't understand, so I'm assuming it's
not English.
Not English.
Well, possibly could be English.
But could be English.
So,
how far would you go for free Wi-Fi, Mark?
I wouldn't name a kid after. Put down the gauntlet for me to actually presume if I would or not name a kid, like whatever. Let's say it was called Wi-Fi.
Well, this internet service provider, basically, they put out an ad saying if you call your kid after our Wi-Fi network, they actually used the name. They were like, if you call your kid Twifa, TWIFIA, basically we'll give you free internet, free Wi-Fi for 18 years.
Yeah.
So this couple, aged 30 and 35, decided they want to remain anonymous. They decided, you know what, we're going to do this, but we're going to give it to her as her middle name.
Yeah.
So they contacted them and they're like, will a middle name work? Like, because, you know, obviously we don't want her to be going around like with that as a first name because it's ridiculous. And they were like, okay, do it as a middle name. It'll be fine. But you need to send us photos of her birth cert with her official name on it and stuff, and it all has to be on there. So they've done all that. And yeah, they've got free Wi-Fi for 18 years. But like they said that they're extremely embarrassed and ashamed that they did it.
But like, couldn't they just go now to a register and change her name to something else, like Jane?
And probably could.
Like, I don't know if the internet company will do any follow-up checks to make sure that her name is still like Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Her middle name is Wi-Fi. I'm sure they just did it as a publicity stunt.
Yeah, like I don't think I would do that. Like the parents released a statement that said, we want to remain anonymous because we don't want to justify ourselves to people that are close to us. The accusation of having sold our child's name has hit us very hard and we are very ashamed. Like, so obviously they told somebody about it and they were like, oh, you absolute bastards.
Like, yeah, but like how much is like internet per month? It's quite a lot.
I don't know. Like my internet and my Sky are connected. Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
Same bill, like, and it's all right. Like,
yeah, like, but if you imagine, like, it is one of your bigger bills, though, is internet. Well, not in the grand scheme of things. But it is a bill. So if you're getting that paid per month for 18 years, like, you are going to notice the difference after.
But I don't know if it's really going to be all that much.
Especially when a lot of them do come with like you say, TV deals or with other things.
Yeah, or like, well, I don't know, maybe it's different in the country that they live in, but like here you can get, like, I think 20 quid a month or something can do it, like on, like your phone, you can get it for 20 quid a month.
Yeah, exactly. And like there are very reasonable like offers in terms of like internet or Wi-Fi packages that you can get.
Yeah, like, so I don't know.
Yeah, so it is really weird that like you would name it for 18 years free internet. Like I thought the couple would be a lot younger than like what 35.
Yeah, 35. Yeah, they're kind of old enough to have more sense.
Yeah, you'd be kind of surprised. And now they're on Idiots of the Week, so fair play to you. Our next person definitely deserves to be on Idiots of the Week. Bus driver decided to take her school kids that she was meant to be just dropping off of school to McDonald's. This happened in New York school. Her name is Lashonda Griffin. She's 29 years old, and everyone who when I first read out the story, who thought it was man, #feminism, #women bus drivers. Doing it for womankind everywhere. And basically, she was arrested at the gates of Chile School District in New York City on October 16th, which was a Friday. The 29-year-old was reportedly found passed out after dropping the children off of school following kind of unauthorized trip to McDonald's.
I would have been delighted as a kid if the fucking bus driver brought us to McDonald's.
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily the kids were upset or if it was necessarily the teachers / employers of the bus company / parents of the kids. And like it was a very small group of kids. There was about 6 kids in total that were on the bus. They were between the ages of 5 and 16 years old. She told the kids that we're going to McDonald's quickly, so don't tell nobody. Then obviously had to probably realized that she had to probably pay the kids off with McDonald's, and brought 2 of the kids into McDonald's to help carry the food. And then obviously it kind of raised a few eyebrows when the kids more than likely got off the bus with McDonald's after being dropped off at school. So officials asked the police to investigate why these kids had McDonald's on their way to school.
Brilliant.
At which point Griffin was found incapacitated behind a wheel. She had driven herself back to the bus yard and had just fallen asleep at the wheel when police had found her. She was made to perform a sobriety test, and it was found to fail that. And so she's now looking at a DWI under several felonies, including DWI, which it could lead her to 4 years in prison, as well as being intoxicated while driving someone under the age of 16, as well as 6 counts of child endangerment.
Jesus.
Yeah, so she's facing a lengthy punishment for what she did. But like you said, if I was in school, Ken, and I was on my way to school and the bus driver pulled off into McDonald's, it would be the best day ever. Honestly, I don't think anybody would say anything.
If I was on a bus now and a bus driver pulled into McDonald's, I'd be delighted.
Yeah, of course you would. But imagine you're on your way to school.
Yeah, and that would have been the best day.
When ever. I was going to school, there's 30 kids on that bus. I'm pretty sure that no one would say anything. We're like, yeah, cool, we're going to McDonald's. It'd probably take about an hour in order for to get the 30 kids back onto the bus after going to McDonald's. That'd be another kind of a challenge. But yeah, that would be the best day ever. And obviously the kids got off of school safely, and then obviously Griffin went back to the depot, fell asleep for a bit, got caught obviously with a load of McDonald's in their car in the bus. What the fuck happened?
That's just brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think she's thinking about it, because it was on the fence if she was an idiot of the week. I know a lot of parents would say she's definitely much criteria of an idiot of the week, because I'd
say the idiot of the week part would fall in where she was drunk.
Yeah. The child being drunk while behind the wheel of a bus, and then thinking that it would probably be okay to just a quick drop off at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I wonder if she smelled like change or if she was like slurring her words. She's like, we're going to McDonald's, so don't tell nobody. Shh. It's gonna be okay.
It'll be fine. I'll get you a Happy Meal.
Yeah, or like, I guess it would be in the morning, so like just like everyone gets like free McDonald's breakfast things. It looks like plastic food.
But it's good. Yeah, I know. I love McDonald's.
I don't know how to feel about having Mac breakfasts. I don't know how to feel about ghosts. This is our final story. We got through all our 80 stories, I think. And now we're on to our topic part. So when it comes to anything ghostly or spiritual or haunted, where do you fall on the spectrum?
Iffy.
In terms of like believing ghosts is a spectrum. Like I think there's some people believe more of it than others, and there's others that may say they don't believe in ghosts, but they mightn't say in a haunted house for anything, or they might steer clear of a Ouija board. And then there's some people that it wouldn't bother them. If someone said this house is haunted, they say, okay, fair enough. And this would say in it, if they say like Ouija board could have a like spirit fuck you up, they'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, let's play. And they wouldn't mind. So there's a spectrum of it. Whereabouts on the spectrum would you think you'd fall on it?
Like, I don't necessarily believe in stuff, but I wouldn't really go fucking with stuff.
So yeah, exactly. Like you go, if someone said, oh, do you believe in ghosts? You'd probably say no.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's where a lot of our listeners would be. They'd be like, oh yeah, well I don't believe in ghosts. And they'd be like, do you want to do a Ouija board? And you're like, fuck no, I don't do a Ouija board. And then it's like, well, all a Ouija boards is summoning spirits which you don't believe in. And you're like, yeah, still.
Do you know who invented the Ouija board?
No.
You know Hasbro?
No.
Like basically every board game ever invented.
Yeah.
Like, they make Monopoly and they make Cluedo and all that. Yeah, they invented the Ouija board.
Oh, really? See?
Yeah.
This is a man-made thing. Like, in terms of stuff like that, I've never done a Ouija board. I remember when I was younger, I had an opportunity to do a Ouija board. And I was like, fucking not messing around in that shit. But I was at that stage, a lot more malleable, let's say, to like spirits and ghosts being real around. But I don't think it'd bother me now. If like, someone said, let's do a Ouija board, I was like, okay. Like it's...
Yeah, I don't think I'd bother.
Yeah, and like, what would be the reasons behind you not, let's say, bothering?
Right, I'd say no, I don't believe in ghosts and shit, but that's because I think logically.
Yeah.
But like, I've heard stories of people that I do think logically as well, that they have seen shit and stuff. Now, the logical and cynical part of me thinks, nah, it's just like, I think we talked about it before, like I've seen things before that I just like logically think about, and I'm like, it's just because I'm overtired or whatever.
Yeah, like I think everyone have ghost stories. Yeah. Well, the thing about like any kind of ghostly experience that I've ever had falls under like, or scary, or thinking like, oh, did I hear or see something? Falls under 3 categories. I was alone by myself. I was half asleep or just about to go to sleep, or I was already priorly thinking about something like that was playing on my mind. So I think necessarily when you're in, especially in that last one where it's playing on your mind, kind of like if you convince yourself like, oh, imagine if someone was like, you're on your own in the house and you're like, you look out your back window and you're like, imagine if someone was like outside, and then just before you go to bed you're like, oh, did I lock that back door? So you're kind of like, what if the person is like outside waiting for me to lock the back door, and as I get there he's going to open the door, or she, #feminism. So as you get to that door, you're like, your heart starts to slowly race, your anticipation about anything that you see might happen, and the slightest thing like maybe the light from a different room coming bouncing off the door, or something catches the moonlight or something, whatever, you see something really quick from the corner of your eye that you're not too clear, that's going to freak you the fuck out. And I think some people are more malleable to see things in those state of minds. And then obviously when you're half asleep, like you're way more ability, like as you sleep, you have one of the most hallucinogenic drugs going through your brain. So like you hear and are seeing things at night, like it's very questionable.
Yeah, cynical about everything.
I wouldn't be like one of these people who go out my way to do a Ouija board. I'm not really into any spirit shit. I'm not into like summoning ghosts, because I'd be like, okay, let's just get drunk. But if someone was in the room and someone like, it was at a party and people were like, oh, I got a Ouija board, do you want to do it? And other people were like, okay. I'll be like, okay, I don't want to be awkward here. I'll do it. I don't think it would bother me too much. What about a haunted house, Ken?
What about a haunted house?
Would you go stay in a haunted house?
This would depend on who would be staying with.
I imagine Nadine.
Maybe.
You, Nadine, one Halloween night that there isn't a pandemic and hotels are allowed to stay open. There's
I've gone to haunted houses.
Yeah, and did you ever see or hear it when you're at the haunted house?
I didn't, but Aideen did.
Do you know what Aideen's seen?
She had her hair pulled.
Her hair pulled?
Yeah.
Were you in the bed beside her, or was she like brushing her?
Yeah, no, like we weren't staying there. Like we were getting a tour of a haunted house.
All right.
Yeah, and like I was standing beside her. There was nobody else like around her, and she had her hair pulled.
That's really weird.
She actually thought for about 4 days afterwards that I did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why did she like hit you on it and go, fucking Ken, that her?
We were in getting whatever, and during the tour we were in a room where apparently the people that used to live there, it's where they locked up now you would say that she had some sort of psychiatric issues. They locked up like their daughter, and she got starved and she died. And apparently, like they said, that's where a lot of people who come to the house do experience like some sort of paranormal shit.
Yeah.
And Aideen looked at me, kind of like laughing, and I was like, "What the fuck's she laughing at?" Like, and then afterwards, when I said it to her, she's like, "Because you were pulling my hair." I was like, "I wasn't pulling your hair."
Oh shit! All right. And did she get really freaked out over it, or was she like, "Oh, that's weird"?
Not really. She was kind of like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then, like afterwards, there was like a book for people. I never trust these things. There's like a book for like writing down anything that may have happened paranormal during your tour.
Yeah.
And the most common thing that people were writing in it was like, I got my hair pulled. My hair was pulled. Somebody pulled my hair.
But do you not think there's something set up there where, I don't know how it's done, but there's something there where people are getting their hair pulled, or they have something...
I literally don't know how it would have worked, like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like...
Because it was like, it was literally like, you got a tour, and we're in the middle of a room. There's nobody else around us. The tour guide is the far side of the room, and somebody pulled her hair.
Yeah, like, that is weird. Yeah, it wouldn't be enough to convince me of, okay, that was a spirit. Because, like, it's one thing to go, okay, I don't know what the fuck that was. There's another thing to then go, I don't know what that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's something else. I'm going to say it's this. It's because, like, it's kind of like the same thing with aliens. People go, oh, I don't know what that's in the sky. Well, it must be aliens then. What the actual thing is, there's something in the sky that you don't know what it is. But why that thing is, could be anything. Just like, you don't know what it is.
The other day, going to work, there was 4 fucking weird, strange lights in the sky.
Yeah.
This is like, 5:15 in the morning. And I was like, that looks fucking strange. And, some people would have said, it's aliens.
Yeah.
I was like, it has to be like a fucking meteor shower or a fucking shooting star or something like that. Like, it's...
I think a lot of people, same with the God thing, is like, oh, we don't know how that is. It must be God. And then suddenly it's proved like that. Oh, no, this is a natural recurrence in nature, or you see this on different places. Like the Rory Borealis, the Northern Lights. How many years did that go on that people are like, that's definitely God? Actually, no, it's to do with the magnetic poles and, I don't know, some other light thing. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's then explained by scientists. And then, yeah, like, and then there's also psychics. So people who would say that they, like, I think people who maybe necessarily wouldn't say, oh, I don't know if houses are haunted, but then go to a psychic.
Yeah.
And I think, like, yeah, it kind of goes to then the same thing of, like, psychics is a proving, like, hoax. When you have, like, magicians or people from different industries going, oh, actually, this is how they do this. This is how you cold read somebody. This is how they can actually get a read on you, or work off your body language to determine whether or not why you're coming in there, what kind of things you want.
Don't believe in psychics at all.
Some people do give, like, very specific information, which is quite weird. But, like, it comes down to that thing of, okay, I don't know how they did that. Well, I'm not going to then turn around and go, I don't know how they did that, so let's call it psychic.
I don't know if they ever do give very specific information, like, or is it just vague information that you're making specific?
I think people like, they might say a name, then they might say an aunt's name, or they might say, do you have an Aunt Julia? And then they're like, I do have an Aunt Julia. And they said, Aunt Julia says something, and it's a very specific word that Aunt Julia might say. I've heard of people who go and get like that specific thing. Now, I don't know whether in the reading, I was like, I'm getting a Jane Julia. And if you go, oh yeah, my Aunt Julia. And she has a message for you. And then like they're able to read off the body language what like maybe Aunt Julia would say to her. Like, I don't know how, once again, I don't know how it's done. But if like are people out there that say, oh, this, you can cold read somebody, or you can read somebody's body language and then use kind of this kind of guessing kind of right answers.
Well, I think with psychics, it's a lot easier now than it was, like, say, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because now they can just fucking Google you or look you up on Facebook now.
Yeah, exactly. They know your clients that are coming down. They could probably get a good read on you.
And like, it's amazing how many people are stupid enough to like still have their Facebook profiles and stuff very public.
Yeah, exactly. And people can get like a good bit of information off you and from Facebook, or from like finding you online quite easily.
Yeah.
I always think that if they can hypnotize people, I don't know how easy this is to do. I know some people do get them to lie down. Like, if you're hypnotized, they could hypnotize you, get you to spill whatever reason you're here for, what kind of answers you want, unhypnotize you that you don't realize you're being hypnotized. I know this sounds a bit of a farce, and then be like, okay, here's your reading, and then you're like, oh my god, how do you get so much specific information?
You see, hypnotism is another one that I'm skeptical on.
I think when you have people like Darren Brown who do it, or magicians who do it, and like, I do think people can be persuaded. Do you ever, like, that Darren Brown thing, the assassination thing, was really interesting.
I've never seen it.
It's on, I think it's on 4OD. It's their streaming site, and like, it's free as well. So like, you can he hypnotized a person to kill Stephen Fry. He like put him. He hypnotized them. He found people who he got, like, people from a group audience, seeing people who are most susceptible to lash out after being hypnotized, and basically then send them on a training course, like how to shoot, as well as like introducing keys. That if the person's seen these keys, that they switch into state of mind, and obviously that state of mind for him was a hypnosis state of assassin. And basically, a phone rang, and there was a phone ringtone that set him off. The name said Stephen Fry is your target, and there was a gun then under a seat. Stephen Fry was in on the act, and basically the gun was like basically made to feel like a real gun, and had like blanks in it. However, when the blanks came off, like, there was like kind of blood patches on Stephen's suit that he kind of went off, and kind of like made it look like he got actually shot. And Stephen Fry, seeing obviously when your man shoots a gun, he went down and pretended like he was shot. And then your man went back, sat down, watched the rest of the show. Didn't know what the hell happened.
I'm still, like, I don't know, I'm always skeptical about stuff like that.
Yeah, like, I think,
like, how do you know he's not planted there? Or like, is it one of those things that will only happen because you want it to happen?
Well, yeah, I think there is a certain amount of like free will involved in it, and like what he did was, it was more like a scientific experiment than anything else. First, he got people and tried to hypnotize a large audience, and there's certain people who can't be hypnotized or are harder to hypnotize. So he found people who are very susceptible to being hypnotized. Then once he found those people, he put them through another experiment, see how many people are willing to like throw acid in somebody's face. Obviously didn't have acid, and I think there was only 4 people that actually did it. And so then they got those 4 people, and through other experiments, I think it was like staying in an ice bath for the longest after being hypnotized, they found the like best person for it. And obviously he was most kind of suitable that met all the criteria. So then he further trained them on through hypnotism on how to shoot and how to do different things, so that he has these keys built into his brain. So it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to find a random guy off the street, I'm going to hypnotize him to kill Stephen Fry, and he's just going to be like cool with it. It took a lot of prep work in order for it to get done. Like, it's definitely worth watching. And Darren Brown did like a whole thing on hypnotism, on getting people to change behaviors or do certain things under hypnotism. And one of the things why I was thinking about psychics hypnotizing you was that he was having a conversation and hypnotized him, took his shoe off, and it's like, he's talking about pickpocketing, and they're like, do you remember me taking your shoe off? And he's like, no, why the fuck did you do that? And he showed it was a shoe. Like, he hypnotized him, got a shoe, unhypnotized him, and then continue on the conversation as they were having normally. And he was like, I have your shoe, and you're like, oh, how do you I didn't even feel you take my shoe off. So it's like really weird, things like that. So I believe in hypnotism because I see, like, obviously watching those programs, I've seen it happen. So I'm more to like understand that, like, hypnotism real, but in terms of then being able to predict someone's future, I don't know about haunted house. Like, if someone said, oh, do you want to stay in this haunted house on my own? Like, even though I'd be very, very skeptical of ever seeing a ghost or anything happening, like, I probably still, there's probably a tiny part of my brain that thinks there might be something happening. Like, someone said, there's this haunted house, there's poltergeist in here. If you can stay tonight, we'll give you like 100 quid. I'd probably be like, I'm good. I don't need 100 quid.
Yeah, like, it's the same. You know, all those like ghost hunter programs and stuff. Like,
they're bullshit.
I don't believe any of them.
Yeah, no, like, they're a load of crap. I think we were more or less on the same page. We'd be very, very skeptical of ghosts, of spirits, but there's probably extreme scenarios where we'd probably be still like, I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think we'll leave it there for today's show.
We'll leave it on that spooky note. Halloween themed show. We'll have a Halloween themed clip popping up on our Instagram and Facebook pages as well as YouTube. It was Ken's second ever show that we did. It was a Halloween themed show. We'll be having a clip from that. So make sure you watch out for that. We'll be back around Thursday or Friday. Varies on the days. Apple people even get worse sometimes. So if you're Spotify or any of the other ones, just count your blessings. You get it on a Thursday or Friday. Sometimes they have to wait a week. Yeah.
And we'll be back anyway with another show. Talk to you soon.
Good luck.
Shut up and sit down.